So Fortnite just released an update that supports Unreal Engine 5.1, and with that we get Lumens and Neonites, Nanonites, or whatever it's called. So what we're going to be doing is we'll be doing a test with the previous Epic preset. It's custom set at the moment, because if you set it to Epic at the moment, then we get Nanites enabled, and then we also get Lumen enabled. So for now, what we're going to do is we're going to run in DirectX 12 at 1440p. We've got an RTX 3080 with a 12700K CPU and 32 gigabytes of DDR4 3600 MHz memory. Right, as you can see, our frame rate is set to unlimited. We are running DirectX 12. We have motion blur disabled. The quality preset is set to custom at the moment, so we are using TAA for anti-aliasing. We don't have Nanite enabled. I just want to show you what happens if you enable it. So this becomes available, and then you can switch Global Illumination to Lumen, High, or Epic. Right, so we are just going to disable this, and then you'll see that it disables that Lumen setting. Everything else we'll leave on Epic, and we've got Nvidia Reflex low latency enabled. Right, so let's see how it goes. I'm just going to use this one as a base, and then we'll see what happens when we enable Lumen and Neonite. Alright, and here we are in the bus, or whatever it's now. Well, it's still a bus, it just looks a little bit different. So in the top left hand corner there, we've got some performance and metrics. I'm just going to select a spot where I can jump. This is where we'll be benchmarking in the frenzy field. And you can see that we've got our GPU usage, VRAM usage, our GPU clocks, our CPU clocks and temps. Don't mind the CPU usage. There is a little bit of a bug with the current version of RTSS that I'm using. And then we've got the frames per second, the 1% lows, and the 0.1% lows as well. Now, I did play a little bit earlier just to get the shaders to load properly, so that we don't have any stuttering issues during our benchmark run. There are still quite a lot of stutters in this game, especially with DirectX 12. In my previous videos, I saw that DirectX 11 provided the best performance. Maybe not the highest average frame rates, but definitely a lot less stuttering. So as you can see, as we get closer to the ground here, we're getting about 130 frames per second. Now, I am playing on 1440p on Ultra Epic, whatever you call it. And this is definitely not how I would usually play the game when I play a little bit online, but this is just to do a comparison between Neonite and Lumen being enabled and not being enabled. And we got our first kill with a pretty awesome shotgun. I didn't think we'd be able to kill him there, but as you can see, the stuttering in this game is it's terrible, especially with these settings on DirectX 12. I would have expected it to be alleviated when, sorry about that, I got lost my words there. I thought it would be a little bit alleviated by playing on lower settings. It actually does not. The stuttering is still there, although the frame rate improves. Alright, so we had a few gunfights. Got an average of about 137 frames per second, but as you can see from the frame time graph, there's quite a lot of stuttering, and I'm looking like an idiot because somebody shot the stairs here and I can't get up here. Alright, so I'm just going to hide in this corner here, and we are going to change some settings. Alright, so for now we are going to leave it at DirectX 12. You can't switch this in game. Then we are just going to lower the settings, and let's just, can we not change it? Let's put it to low. I don't want to lower the render resolution. I'm going to leave it at 100%. There is somebody there. The rest is everything on low at the moment, so let's apply that, and let's see if we can get a kill. Yeah, I'm just going to reset the numbers here, but immediately, even in this spot here, we went from 160 170 frames per second to 330 frames per second. But you can see that the, well, that's the wrong button, the 1%, 0.1% lows, well, specifically the 0.1% lows, that's very disproportionate to the average when compared to the average. And I mean, we're just in this small area, we're not even running around. All right, the storm eye is closing, but I think we have enough info here. You can see outside we are getting about 300 frames per second. And this is usually where I'd play this game. Not that I really think you need 300 frames per second to be competitive, but that seems to be the narrative out there. 300 frames per second or you suck. Just to put that into perspective, I actually won my previous game where I tested the Lumen and Nanite settings, and I got an average of about 60 frames per second, and I won that game. So maybe everybody had it turned on, so everybody had 60 frames per second. But just because you have a higher frame rate, it doesn't mean you will automatically win. And that also means that even if you have a very low frame rate, it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll lose. Now, granted, if you are playing at 60 frames per second and somebody else is playing at 300 frames per second and you are more or less on the same skill level, then it's going to end up pretty badly for you. All right, so this is now at 1440p, everything on as low as it can, still using TAA, and we got an average of 293 frames per second. Right, the 1% low is sitting at 145, and the 0.1% low is sitting at 38. That is definitely not ideal for an online shooter. I mean, the frame rate is acceptable, but the stuttering, that's definitely a problem. Let's just see if we can get another kill before I log out, because I need to restart the game to enable the Lumen settings, etc. I mean, this is a pretty decent shotgun, so maybe we can get somebody. I'm not sure if that's an AI. Might be an AI. And I don't have any more ammo, so we might as well just die here and restart the game. Because this is, I'm not the best with an assault rifle. But as you can see, even during intense gunfights, well, not that that was intense, it was intense for me, we still got our pretty high frame rates. I got 2 bullets in the shotgun. Let's see if we can make them count. I think we cracked him, if that's what you call it in Fortnite. No, but that's the same guy. Blank the tank. I'm not sure if this is an AI or not. Or maybe I downed him and he revived. Got no idea, I don't play Fortnite. Anyway, so that's where we're going to leave it for the 1440p low setting. Average 290 FPS, 1% low at 137, and the 1% lows at 30. So we're going to go back into our settings here, and now we'll just set everything to epic, and we'll use TSR epic as well. So this is just a temporal super resolution, and you can actually adjust the rendering resolution. So we're just going to leave it on native. This game doesn't support FSR or DLSS just yet, but apparently there are plans to implement it sometime soon. All right, so now we've got Lumen on Epic, we've got Nanites on, and then we have reflections on Epic as well. So Lumen can be shortly described as software ray tracing. It can be used in conjunction with hardware ray tracing as well. So we'll do that test after this one. And then Nanite virtualized geometry just increases the detail of the geometry, amongst other things. I'll put a link in the description below so that you can read up a little bit more about these features. All right, so applying these settings, everything on Epic, and let's see how it goes. All right, and here we are in the bus again, and let's just have a look at our map here. We're going to drop here again, and immediately we're getting almost a third of the frames that we were supposed to be getting. Not supposed to be getting, but what we got when Lumen and Nanite were disabled. Right, so the stuttering is even worse. We've got a 0.1% low of 8 frames per second there. I mean, the lighting and the reflections, etc., look extremely nice. But this is a stuttery mess. I don't think anybody will be able to play like this. I mean, this is on an RTX 3080. I've seen videos where people tested it with 4090s, and the results are pretty similar, right? I mean, obviously it gets a higher frame rate, but the performance hit even with the 4090 is immense. Right, you can have a look at the frame time graph there. You can just see that it's very, very stuttery. The gameplay is not smooth at all. I got no idea what half the items in this game are, but I'm just picking up everything I can. Right, so even inside when we're struggling to hit 60 frames per second. I think there's somebody in here. Somebody was outside. I think he died. Right, so even inside we're not even getting 60 frames per second. We're getting an average of 51. But just moving around, like even if the frame time graph does not really show all the status for some reason, the game stutters quite a lot. Those blips you see in the frame time graph, that's definitely stuttering that RTSS picks up. But even without those spiking, the game feels very, very sluggish. Apparently this is quite a strong weapon. Not sure. Oh, there we go. No more walls. Alright, running outside, dipping below 40 even. I mean, I'm not sure what kind of system you need to get a high refresh rate experience with these settings enabled. So obviously people won't play competitively like this. I wouldn't. And performance is not the only issue. With the enhanced lighting comes enhanced shadows, etc. So players might be difficult to spot or more difficult to spot, especially with a certain type of armor or camo, and they might just be able to hide better in the shadows, right? So I don't think I don't think these settings will see a lot of competitive playtime, but it is nice to see what the tech is capable of, and I'm pretty excited to see how this can be applied to single player games. Now, the nice thing about this is that you don't need an RTX graphics card to enable ray-traced global illumination and reflections and shadows, etc. This is done on a software level, so even people without RTX cards can use this. Alright, I think that's enough for this one. So we've got an average of 52 frames per second, and that's a mixture of inside and out. And to be honest, that's actually pretty terrible, considering we got about 140 frames per second previously with these settings, and the only addition was the Lumen and Nanite. So I'm just going to drop the settings down to low again, but we're going to keep the Lumen and Nanite setting enabled. Alright, so we've got our low preset enabled here, and then we are just going to still use Lumen Epic for our global illumination and reflections. You can't disable Nanite whilst in game, but now everything else is on the lowest preset, right? Except for TSR is still enabled. We got some kind of orange glow here. I think I disconnected. Not sure. Anyway, so now inside we're getting about 80 frames per second. I reset the counter, and outside we are still getting also still about 80 frames per second, dropping down to the low 70s there for a bit every now and again. But once again, you can see that the lows are pretty horrendous, right? This is once again definitely not the setting that you should be using when playing competitively. It's just a setting that you enable to see what the game can look like. You can definitely see a big change in the lighting. I'm not going to call it an improvement. It's definitely a visual improvement, but for this type of game and this game that Fortnite is, it overrides the cartoony art style a little bit, and it does take away a little bit from what the game was meant to be when it first released, right? So it was a pretty artsy, cartoony shooter battle royale. It's actually a pretty nice game. I know I give it quite some flack in some of my other videos, but it is enjoyable. I prefer something a little bit more along the lines of Warzone but that's just personal taste. Right, so there we have it. We got an average of about 80 frames per second. Everything set to low, but with Nanites and Lumen still enabled. And now we are going to go back to our Epic preset with the Lumen and Nanite and enable hardware ray tracing. Alright, we're back. We had to restart the game, so we're still on DirectX 12. Everything else is still the same. We are using the quality preset Epic, and TSR is on Epic. Then we have Nanite virtualized geometry enabled. We've got Lumen on Epic for GI and Lumen Epic for reflections, and then we've got hardware ray tracing enabled as well. Alright, and we are back in the bus, and this time we've got everything set to max, everything that I could, and 100% render resolution. So far we are getting about 50 frames per second with quite a lot of stuttering still, and let's see what happens when we get to the ground. And once again, our FPS 1% lows, or the 0.1% low number, dipped to 8 frames per second. So that just reinforces that you should not be playing with these kinds of settings, especially since it's a competitive online shooter. It is also a little bit more difficult to benchmark a title like this because it changes constantly. Sure, you can download a replay or record yourself and just benchmark the replay, but it is definitely a lot more fun trying to play the game while benchmarking. Right, so inside we are back to our below 60 frames per second. I didn't see a whole lot of change between enabling hardware ray tracing and it being disabled, except the stuttering seems to be worse somehow. I thought it was atrocious at first, but now this just made me realize that it's actually even worse when you enable hardware ray tracing. Even though the average performance stays more or less the same, the stuttering has definitely increased. There's no way I'm going to attempt a fight and win it, but especially not with these stutters. We actually won our gunfight, and here's another one. And once again, I'm not sure if these are bots or not. I'm not sure if bots can actually build in this game, but these do seem to be pretty easy opponents, probably because of SBMM. They saw that I really do suck at this game, so they gave me easy opponents. But once again, the focus is on the performance of the game and not on the performance of the player. But then, as I just showed you there, you can definitely still get a kill even with 40 frames per second. And we are going to die now because I need to reload. That's always fun. There we go. Alright, so I mean, I'm just going to leave it there because I don't have any ammo left. I've got 8 bullets left in this gun, and 4 bullets left, sorry, and 2 bullets left, and if I don't kill him now, there we go. Now we got some decent guns again. I mean, I'm not gonna try and finish this game. This is just performance is just terrible, and you need to restart the game to disable ray tracing. So this game is a loss for me, but I think that's going to be it for our benchmarking. What you should take from this is don't enable Lumen or Nanite, and don't enable ray tracing. Alright, and that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and as always, we hope to see you in the next one.